There comes a point in life where holding on becomes more of a burden than a benefit. The things you cling to, the objects, the beliefs, the habits, may have once served a purpose, but after 70, they can quietly turn into shackles that hold you back. There is wisdom in knowing what to release, because what you carry into old age determines whether your final years are light and free or heavy with unnecessary weight. One of the first things to throw away is the clutter that no longer adds value to your life. People spend decades accumulating objects, old clothes, broken furniture, stacks of unread books, under the illusion that these things hold meaning. But possessions are not memories, they are merely remnants of the past. When you free yourself from useless belongings, you create space, not just physically, but mentally. The less you own, the more clearly you can focus on what truly matters. Beyond material clutter, there are outdated beliefs that need to be discarded as well. The world changes, and refusing to adapt only isolates you. The belief that you are too old to learn, to change, to experience new things, that belief is a prison. Throw away the idea that your best years are behind you. Old age does not have to be a slow decline into irrelevance. It can be a period of mastery, wisdom, and even reinvention if you allow it to be. Another burden that must go is toxic relationships. By 70, you have spent enough time enduring people who drain your energy, people who manipulate, criticize, or take more than they give. It is not selfish to remove these individuals from your life. It is necessary. The time ahead of you is limited, and every moment spent with the wrong people is time stolen from joy, peace, and genuine connection. Keep those who uplift you and release those who drag you down. The need for status and material validation is another thing that should be thrown away. At this stage, impressing others with expensive cars, large houses, or luxury items is meaningless. You do not need to prove anything to anyone anymore. If your self-worth is tied to external things, you will always be chasing something that can never satisfy you. The people who matter in your life do not care about what you own. They care about who you are. Regrets are perhaps the heaviest weight that people carry into old age, and they serve no purpose. What has been done is done. No amount of replaying past mistakes will change them. Carrying regrets into your later years is like dragging a corpse behind you. No one else sees it, but it slows you down with every step. If there are apologies to be made, make them. If there are lessons to be learned, learn them. Then let it go. Unhealthy habits should also be thrown away without hesitation. At 70, your body does not recover the way it once did. The foods you eat, the amount of movement you get, the sleep you prioritize, these things determine whether your final years are filled with energy or suffering. It is not too late to make changes. Bad habits will not just shorten your life, they will steal your ability to enjoy the years you have left. Fear of the future is another unnecessary weight to discard. Many people spend their old age obsessing over what could go wrong: illness, loss, the unknown. But fear does not prevent suffering. It only ensures that you suffer before anything even happens. The future is uncertain, yes, but so is the present. Living in constant fear will only rob you of the joy that still exists right in front of you. Finally, let go of the belief that your life no longer holds value. Many people after 70 begin to feel invisible, irrelevant, like they have nothing left to contribute. This is a dangerous lie. Your wisdom, your experiences, your presence, they still matter, but if you do not believe that, no one else will either. Age does not make you worthless. What makes a person truly irrelevant is not their years, but their decision to stop engaging with life. Throw away what no longer serves you. Let go of the weights that keep you anchored in the past. The less you carry, the freer you become. The freer you become, the more life you still have left to live. Clutter is more than just a pile of old belongings. It is a physical manifestation of attachment to the past. Every object that fills a space carries a memory, a story, or an intention that may no longer serve its original purpose. People hold on to things not because they need them, but because they believe these things define their past, their experiences, and their identity. However, the past is not something that can be preserved in objects. It exists in the lessons learned and the wisdom gained. Letting go of clutter does not mean abandoning the past, it means making space for the present. The more you hold on to unnecessary things, the less room you have for new experiences. A house filled with unused furniture, old clothes, and meaningless souvenirs becomes a museum of stagnation, rather than a place of growth. By clearing away what no longer adds value to your life, you open yourself to clarity, movement, and a sense of lightness. Clutter is also a form of mental weight that most people fail to acknowledge. Every object in your environment demands attention, even if subconsciously. A room full of unnecessary possessions creates a sense of disorder, making it harder to focus, relax, or feel at peace. The more clutter surrounds you, the more chaotic your mind becomes. A clean, organized space allows for clearer thinking, better decision-making, and a greater sense of control over your own life. Many people hold on to clutter out of guilt or obligation. Gifts from loved ones, inherited items, or objects tied to past achievements feel difficult to part with, as if discarding them means disrespecting their significance. But true value is not in the object itself, it is in the meaning you give it. If something no longer brings joy or purpose, keeping it out of guilt only creates unnecessary burden. The relationships, experiences, and memories tied to those items remain, even when the physical objects are gone. Clutter can also serve as a distraction from reality. Some people accumulate possessions as a way to fill emotional voids, using material things to avoid confronting deeper struggles. A house full of objects can become a shield against loneliness, regret, or dissatisfaction. However, no amount of belongings can replace genuine fulfillment. True peace comes not from surrounding yourself with things, but from simplifying your life and focusing on what truly matters. There is also the misconception that one day these objects will become useful again. The clothes that no longer fit, the broken appliances waiting to be fixed, the boxes of forgotten trinkets stored away for someday. These things often never find their purpose again. They sit, collecting dust, serving as reminders of things left undone. Letting go of them is an act of honesty, an admission that clinging to what no longer serves you is a waste of time and energy. Clutter affects not only the individual, but also the people around them. A home filled with unnecessary possessions becomes an inconvenience to family members who may one day have to sort through the accumulated mess. Many people leave behind mountains of belongings for their loved ones to deal with, forcing them to make difficult decisions about what to keep and what to throw away. Decluttering now spares them that burden and ensures that only what truly matters remains. Letting go of clutter is an act of trust in the future. Holding on to too much from the past implies a fear that what lies ahead will not be as meaningful or fulfilling. But by releasing unnecessary possessions, you make room for new memories, new relationships, and new experiences. A life lived in the present is far richer than one spent grasping at what is already past. There is a deep freedom in living with only what you need and value. A home that is intentionally curated rather than overstuffed creates an environment of peace and balance. The absence of clutter allows for greater appreciation of the things that do remain, the objects that truly carry meaning, the spaces that invite creativity, and the people who bring joy into your life. Clutter does not just occupy physical space, it occupies mental and emotional space as well. The process of letting go is not about loss, but about liberation. It is about choosing to live unburdened by things that no longer serve a purpose. It is about making space, not just in your home, but in your mind, your heart, and your future. Outdated beliefs are not just ideas, they are mental chains that hold people back from growth, adaptation, and fulfillment. As people age, they often cling to the beliefs they formed in their younger years, assuming that what once worked for them will always remain true. However, the world changes, people evolve, and what was once a guiding principle can become a source of limitation. Refusing to update one's mindset means resisting progress, and that resistance can lead to stagnation and frustration. The most dangerous outdated beliefs are the ones disguised as wisdom. Many people assume that just because they have lived a long life, they automatically possess knowledge superior to the younger generations. While experience is valuable, it is not a substitute for continued learning. The refusal to accept new perspectives, technologies, or societal shifts often leads to alienation. Sticking rigidly to old ideas while the world moves forward creates an unnecessary divide between oneself and the evolving culture. One of the most limiting beliefs in old age is the idea that change is no longer possible. Many convince themselves that they are too old to learn, too set in their ways to grow, or too far along to start something new. This belief is nothing more than an excuse that traps people in cycles of repetition. The ability to change does not disappear with age, it is merely buried beneath years of habit. The mind remains capable of adaptation, but only if one is willing to challenge the belief that growth is reserved for the young. Another damaging belief is the assumption that one's best years are behind them. While physical energy may decline with age, wisdom, perspective, and emotional depth continue to expand. Many people waste their later years dwelling on what they have lost rather than embracing what they have gained. The belief that life's most valuable moments are in the past leads to a sense of resignation, robbing people of the joy, curiosity, and excitement that are still available to them. Holding on to outdated social expectations also creates unnecessary suffering. In earlier generations, roles and behaviors were more rigidly defined, and many people carry those expectations into old age. Ideas about how a person should behave, what is appropriate at a certain stage of life, or what activities are too late to pursue are often based on cultural norms that no longer apply. A person who believes they must behave a certain way because of their age is imposing artificial limits on their own freedom. The belief that dependence is inevitable weakens people before their bodies do. Many assume that aging means becoming helpless, reliant on others, and unable to contribute meaningfully. While some decline is natural, many aspects of aging are shaped by mindset. Those who see themselves as capable, valuable, and independent for as long as possible tend to maintain their strength, whereas those who surrender to the idea of decline accelerate their own deterioration. Some people hold on to the belief that younger generations do not understand them, or that the gap between old and young is too wide to bridge. This belief fosters resentment and isolation, preventing meaningful connections across different age groups. In reality, human experiences remain universal. Everyone seeks meaning, purpose, and connection, regardless of age. By discarding the belief that younger people cannot relate to them, older individuals open themselves to mentorship, friendship, and mutual learning. Many people believe that happiness is tied to circumstances rather than perspective. They tell themselves that if their health were better, if they had more money, or if life had unfolded differently, they would be happy. This belief keeps them trapped in regret rather than appreciation. The truth is that happiness is a skill, not a condition, and it can be cultivated at any age. Letting go of the idea that external factors determine happiness allows a person to focus on gratitude, resilience, and fulfillment. Another outdated belief is the idea that one's worth is measured by past accomplishments rather than present actions. Many define themselves by what they have done rather than who they are now, leading to a sense of irrelevance when their past roles or careers no longer define them. The reality is that worth is ongoing and value does not disappear simply because one's life circumstances change. Letting go of the belief that identity is tied to external achievements allows a person to redefine themselves in meaningful ways. Perhaps the most damaging belief of all is that letting go means losing something. Many people resist changing their beliefs because they fear that doing so would mean admitting they were wrong or giving up a part of themselves. In reality, letting go of outdated beliefs is not about erasing the past, it is about refining it. It is about keeping the lessons that still serve a purpose while discarding the ones that no longer align with reality. Growth is not about forgetting where one has been, it is about moving forward without unnecessary burdens. Toxic relationships are not just emotionally exhausting, they are corrosive forces that slowly eat away at a person's peace, self-worth, and overall well-being. Many people hold on to harmful connections out of obligation, nostalgia, or fear of loneliness, but the cost of maintaining these relationships is often far greater than the discomfort of letting them go. Relationships should add value to life, not drain it, and allowing toxic people to remain in one's inner circle only serves to prolong unnecessary suffering. One of the most deceptive aspects of toxic relationships is that they often do not start as toxic. Many of them begin with genuine care, shared experiences, or even love, making it difficult to recognize when they have turned harmful. This slow transition is what keeps people trapped, constantly making excuses for bad behavior and hoping for the return of something that no longer exists. Holding on to a connection based on what it used to be rather than what it is now leads to a cycle of disappointment and emotional exhaustion. Toxic relationships thrive on patterns of guilt, manipulation, and control. Whether it is a friend who constantly drains energy with negativity, a family member who belittles and criticizes, or a partner who undermines confidence, these patterns are designed to keep a person stuck. Toxic individuals rarely take responsibility for their actions. Instead, they shift blame, create conflict, and use emotional leverage to maintain their grip. The longer these behaviors are tolerated, the harder it becomes to break free. One of the biggest fears people have when considering cutting ties with a toxic person is the fear of regret. They worry that they are overreacting, being too harsh, or failing to show enough patience. But the reality is that genuine relationships do not require constant justification or self-sacrifice. If a relationship consistently leaves a person feeling drained, anxious, or unworthy, then it is not a relationship. It is an emotional burden that needs to be lifted. Letting go of toxic relationships does not mean one is heartless or incapable of forgiveness. It means recognizing that some people are unwilling or unable to change, and that waiting for them to do so only results in further damage. Forgiveness can be given without re-entry. It is possible to wish someone well without allowing them continued access to one's life. True peace comes from understanding that walking away from toxicity is an act of self-respect, not cruelty. Many people underestimate how much energy toxic relationships steal from them. The constant stress, overanalysis, and emotional turbulence they cause leave little room for personal growth, creativity, or joy. When a person removes toxic influences, they often experience an unexpected lightness. Suddenly, their mind is clearer, their motivation returns, and their capacity for meaningful connections expands. The space once occupied by conflict and frustration becomes available for healthier, more fulfilling relationships. Toxic relationships can have profound effects on physical health as well. Chronic stress, often caused by unhealthy connections, leads to increased cortisol levels, sleep disturbances, weakened immunity, and even heart problems. Emotional wounds manifest physically over time, and carrying the weight of toxic interactions day after day takes a serious toll. Cutting off these relationships is not just an emotional decision, it is a necessary act of self-preservation that allows the body to heal as well as the mind. One of the hardest aspects of removing toxic people is dealing with the reactions that follow. Toxic individuals rarely accept accountability, and when someone distances themselves, they often retaliate with guilt-tripping, playing the victim, or even escalating their toxic behaviors. This is why setting firm boundaries is crucial. It is not enough to simply recognize toxicity. Action must be taken to enforce limits, and those limits must remain non-negotiable. The people one surrounds themselves with shape their outlook, emotional state, and overall quality of life. Holding on to negative relationships out of fear or obligation is like drinking poison daily and expecting to thrive. There is nothing noble about tolerating mistreatment. True strength is found in having the courage to walk away, to choose peace over chaos, and to protect one's energy from those who seek to drain it rather than nurture it. Choosing to remove toxic relationships is not about cutting people out recklessly or avoiding conflict. It is about prioritizing emotional well-being and refusing to settle for connections that bring more harm than good. It is about realizing that life is too short to spend it constantly defending oneself, explaining one's worth, or being pulled into unnecessary drama. It is about making room for the relationships that uplift, support, and contribute to a life of meaning, fulfillment, and genuine peace. Possessions can easily become chains that tie you to a version of yourself that no longer serves you. The accumulation of objects, trinkets, and symbols of status may have once seemed necessary, but in the later years of life they do little more than occupy space. The need to own things often stems from a desire for validation, a belief that material wealth equates to self-worth. But the reality is, no object will ever define who you are. Instead, it is the wisdom you carry, the impact you have on others, and the lessons you pass down that create a lasting impression. Status symbols are deceptive because they promise fulfillment yet demand constant upkeep. The car that once turned heads now requires costly maintenance. The house that once signified success now feels empty and overwhelming to maintain. The wardrobe filled with expensive clothing sits untouched because priorities have shifted. These items may have once been markers of progress, but over time they become burdens. True security and confidence do not come from what you own, but from what you know, what you give, and how you live. Society encourages the pursuit of material success, often making it seem as though your possessions define your value, but as the years pass, it becomes clear that the most successful individuals are not those who hoard the most, but those who let go of what no longer serves them. The ability to release the unnecessary is a mark of wisdom, not failure. It is a declaration that you no longer need external validation to feel whole. Holding on to unnecessary possessions often stems from a fear of scarcity, a belief that without them something vital will be missing. This mindset can be difficult to break, especially after decades of working hard to accumulate security. But real security does not lie in objects, it lies in adaptability, in the ability to navigate life with clarity and purpose, unburdened by material excess. The lighter you travel through life, the easier it becomes to focus on what truly matters. The need for status symbols often masks a deeper insecurity, a worry that without them, one's significance will fade. But the truth is, the people who genuinely matter in your life do not care about your possessions. They care about your presence, your insight, and your character. When you release the need for material validation, you create space for deeper connections and experiences that hold real value. One of the greatest freedoms in old age is the ability to choose simplicity. Letting go of possessions does not mean living without comfort, but rather eliminating excess that serves no real purpose. A smaller home, a simpler wardrobe, and fewer unnecessary expenses can provide peace of mind rather than a sense of loss. Stripping away the excess allows for more energy to be directed toward meaningful relationships, personal growth, and the enjoyment of everyday life. People often hold on to possessions out of nostalgia, believing that objects hold memories. But memories are not stored in things, they are stored within you. The need to keep every item from the past can create a psychological weight that prevents you from fully embracing the present. Letting go does not mean forgetting, it means making space for new experiences rather than being tethered to old ones. Status symbols often lose their power over time. What once impressed others becomes irrelevant in a different stage of life. No one is paying attention to what watch you wear or what car you drive, when the real measure of worth is the wisdom you have gained. Striving for external recognition at the expense of internal fulfillment is a losing game, and releasing the need for validation is an essential step toward personal peace. Unnecessary possessions can create an illusion of permanence, a false sense that as long as you have them, nothing will change. But change is inevitable, and resisting it only leads to frustration. Accepting that material wealth is fleeting allows you to invest your energy in things that truly last: relationships, personal well-being, and the legacy you leave behind. Freeing yourself from the grip of possessions and status symbols is not an act of deprivation, but an act of liberation. The less you cling to material things, the more space you create for purpose, clarity, and genuine fulfillment. True wealth is not measured by what you own, but by the peace you carry within you.